Kia ora te whānau, ko Andrew Doubleday ho. Welcome to this reflection on Luke chapter 6 verses 27 to 38, and it's for Sunday the 20th of February. A couple of weeks ago I was sitting in my car in a car park in town, in Christchurch here in Otatahi, a little shopping mall, waiting for a friend to arrive because we were going to have coffee together. And as I sat there, suddenly there was a bang on the door of my car, the passenger side. And I looked, and the person who was parked next door to me, his door had banged into mine, and he was putting a small boy into the car seat, and he looked and didn't seem to consider that anything more needed to be done, and I just went whoop whoop, and he kind of looked at me in a kind of disdainful way. I thought, okay, not good. So I got out of the car, went round and just stood behind, just watched him what he was doing, and he looked at me and says, "What?" I said, "You banged your door into my car." "Well," he said, "haven't done any damage. What's the problem?" And I said, "Well, okay." And I feel the temperature starting to rise. Of course, he explains to me that he's putting his kid in the car and I should be less precious. And things kind of go from bad to worse. And when it's all over and he drives off and we've been snarling at one another, I felt, quite a sense of shame that I wasn't covered in glory by the encounter. Part of me feels that if he just said, "Look, I'm sorry," showing that he was a bit, that it would have been okay, but that didn't happen. And in the end, is that the bit that matters? Is that the bit that matters? And it's as I was reading this text that incident, which had just happened when I started reading this text just a few days before, came to mind and reminded me of all the feelings that I've been going through. And this text that we're going to read is a well-known one, but we don't usually read this whole section. The lectionary offers it to us in this way. It's kind of complete and bookended, but it covers a number of issues. And certainly from my perspective, when I've preached from this text, I'll have taken a section of it, never the whole. But it's when I read it, I was struck by something of the unity of it, something of its invitation, and something that in a way both surprised me and shocked me and challenged me. So I'm going to read it now and invite you just to listen. You don't have much choice really. And then I just want to reflect a few things about it. So it's Luke chapter 6 verses 27 through to 38. I say to you that listen, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you expect or hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. but love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great. You will be children of the Most High, for He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. As I said, I suspect there have been untold sermons that have been preached on each of the sections here, on forgiveness, on judging others, on stewardship and prosperity, because that's how you can chop it up. Yet, when it was read as a whole, in the light of my experience, I was struck by how I felt. And I realise there's a sense that you've almost got to look past the details of what Jesus is saying. Don't get caught in the specifics of each of the little bits of the narrative that he's laying before us. And ask the question, what kind of spirit is Jesus inviting me into? How am I to live out of this particular passage? And I realize there's an invitation. Am I willing to drop my need to be right? Am I willing to let go of my need to be vindicated, or to get what's due to me, or even revenge? There's an invitation in what Jesus is inviting us here to an expansiveness towards the world, towards other people, even when they don't deserve it. An invitation to a generosity of spirit towards the world, towards others, even when they haven't asked for it, even when they may not be expecting it, even when they deserve the opposite. It strikes me also that there's a willingness to assume the best in others. One of my best friends is a retired school counsellor, and if you've heard me for any length of time, you'll have heard me say this before. He would say, I generally try to work on the principle that everybody that I'm dealing with is doing the best they know how. It may not look very good. In fact, it may be really, from my point of view, totally inadequate. But for them, it may be that in this moment, this is the best that they're capable of. I can cut them some slack in that. And even when they're treating me badly, that I might be able to be okay about that. How do you feel when you imagine yourself taking on this kind of attitude? How do I feel? For me, it brings with it an offer, an opportunity for a sense of calmness, a place for serenity. It's pretty good, isn't it? And it's when I realise that how other people treat me is not actually my problem. It's their problem. How others behave toward me is in fact their problem. I had this conversation with Lynn a couple of weeks ago. somebody was inviting me to consider a role, and one of the qualities was that you needed to be thick-skinned. And I said to them, I'm not thick-skinned, am I? And she said, no. But she reminded me that I'd always said that I have sloping shoulders, so that when things land, they just slide off. There's an element of truth to that. And part of it is that part of my process is I have to work out whether what this person's saying, reflecting to me, is something that actually belongs to me. And if there's things that I need to change, I'll hopefully start a process to make that happen. And if it's not, I'd say, okay, this isn't about me, this is about them. Because the truth is, I know that I can be annoying and I can be hurtful. Now, I often don't recognise that in the moment. It's something that I might realise later in the light of cooler reflection. I don't consciously intend to hurt or to damage people, but it doesn't mean I don't do it. And I'm aware that now through the years that there are people that I have hurt. And yeah, I don't feel great about that. And yet, so I know that there's that within me. But I also know that I'm responsible for my response when others lash out at me. I'm not responsible for how they behave. I am responsible for how I behave. And ultimately, if I feel like I've been really badly done by, I can choose to trust the one who sees the whole picture and will vindicate me should that be deemed necessary. And yet even now, as I'm saying this, I'm realising that I'm the potential of getting caught in the weeds again, because Jesus is inviting me to something bigger and greater. Simply letting go of all that stuff to, in a sense, just rise above it and to just trust Him, to trust that His purposes are being worked out, to trust that as I walk with Jesus, as I put my hand in His hand, as I snuggle in, as I'm aware of His gentle, loving, healing, forgiving presence, I can let go of the need to sort all this other stuff out. I wish I could do it more often. There's still a wee ways to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the text again and invite you just to sit and, in a sense, soak in it. Don't get caught up in the details. Ask the question as I'm reading, what is Jesus inviting me into? What is He inviting me to feel as I might be saying yes to what He's saying? I say unto you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Stick with it. God bless you.